Chapter 2. The Fall. 15 years ago, New York City, 1985. The hottest summer anyone could remember. Also, the longest drought in recent history. 7 months without rain in the city was enough to drive anyone insane. There was already 50 deaths due to the drought, and the weather reports stating that there was no rain in sight. Chaos ensued in the city. There was looting and fights, strikes and power outages, you name it. If it could go wrong, it did. The weatherman may not have known why the sky refused to rain, but the mystics knew. Those beings blessed to be in tune with the vibration of the earth felt its cries. The push and the pull of the tide ceased. The wind refused to blow. Fear was on the rise. It looked like World War III. Meanwhile, as turbulent as times were, some people managed to hold their sanity, but everyone has their limits.
God damn it, I'm gonna have to quit my job.
Bermi said, exasperated while wiping the sweat from her brow. Her name was Patrice, native New Yorker, born and raised in West Harlem. Today, she wore her favorite pink blouse with tan slacks, caramel skin and wavy brown hair down her shoulders. Her favorite punchline is,
I'm sweet as apple pie, but don't presume to try this pie because this slice bites back.
As a kid, she had dreams of becoming a stand-up comedian. She loved to make people laugh, and knowing that she brought joy to their life if only for a moment. But life doesn't always turn out the way we plan.
Hey now, B, we all know you say that every dang day. You're not going anywhere,
replied Nagu, the eccentric old man that owned the newsstand across the street from Bermi's current job at the DMV. Bermi and Nagu have been cool since she started working at the DMV about a year ago.
Nagu, I ain't playing around. Today was different. People have straight lost their minds, and who ain't got time for crazies? This lady right here, me. It's like this heat has melted away the rest of their good sense, and I'll let you in on a secret, there wasn't much to begin with.
She was on a rant, the sweat dripping down her face in buckets.
Go calm down, B. Calm down. You gave yourself a heart attack, you know.
Nagu said, chuckling and trying to fan her with a newspaper.
Nagu, haven't you seen them? Some folks are so far gone their eyes have turned black. No color or light, and their skin. Don't even get me started. This one chick looked like she was shot in the face with pine cones. Oh, and one of the nasty hands tried to attack me today. Nearly hurled himself over the counter to wrap his hands around my neck for denying his plea deal. I said, sir, it's not my fault you had 14 unpaid tickets on your vehicle, not to mention 4 counts of DUI. Deny, deny, deny.
Say what now? Oh my, you okay, girl?
Yeah, I'm fine. Security handled his behind before I did. Just the audacity. That man just seemed to have no control. I was more frightened for him. Also, Nagu, how are you not dying of heat out here? You're not even sweating.
She said, touching his forehead and questioning his humanity. It was at least 99.9 degrees, not to mention the humidity.
Girl, I was born under the heat. This is nothing to me. Hey now, you still got that crystal pin that I gave you, yeah?
Of course. Never take it off, just like you said.
Bermi pulled the crystal pendant from under her blouse. It was a shimmering blue crystal with gold flakes along the side.
Good. Never take it off. It's a self-replenishing crystal. Protects you from all negative energy and thought. Never take it off.
Yeah, Nagu. Got it. Won't take it off. I hear ya. Loud and clear.
Hey now, how's my princess doing?
Oh, she's good. Decided to let her stay home from school today. I don't trust these kids out here. It's Friday the 13th. Anything can go down.
Bermi kinda lied. Truth was, her daughter hasn't been to school in almost a month. Her miracle child, Ishara, was a beautiful girl, kind and wise beyond her years. She was turning 13 years old in a couple of days, but Ishara had been suffering from nightmares every night for the past few months. She was not doing well. For several nights, it seemed like Ishara was trapped in her dreams and couldn't wake up. It scared the living daylights out of Bermi. She had screamed so loud, the neighbors thought she was being attacked. She didn't know how to help her daughter, and she was barely able to sleep herself. She worried about her. She worried about what was going on. Not having help as a single mom was hard enough. Bermi was told that she was unable to have kids at an early age, but Ishara was her miracle child. Even though Ishara's father was never in the picture, it took only one night with one of the most beautiful men she'd ever seen in real life to conceive this miracle child. But the very next day, he disappeared without a trace, leaving her with one gift, Ishara. She shook herself out of her thoughts.
Good. Very good.
Nagu closed his eyes, clapped his hands together 3 times, and held out his hands toward Bermi. She just stood there smiling at the old man, but she couldn't help but notice the pulse of energy that quickly washed over her. Nagu opened his eyes and motioned her forward. With his eyes still closed, he held her hands in his.
Light that glows, fortify this soul,
He whispered, and opened his eyes.
Safe journey home, honeybee. Your daughter needs ya.
Nagu said, releasing her hands. Bermi peered deeply at the old man, nodded, and started on her way home. Something was happening tonight. She felt it, so she doubled her pace. Bermi got off the train on 117th Street in Lenox in Harlem and rushed towards her apartment building. The train was less than thrilling. People were miserable and sick. She kept her head low so as not to make eye contact with anyone, the easiest way to avoid any problems. Walking the streets, Bermi put on her bravest face. This was not the Harlem she grew up in. The streets were littered with tumbleweeds, abandoned cars, and baby strollers. Everybody was outside who didn't have an AC unit or money to pay their electric bill. The air was thick and smelled of trash, African cuisine, and brimstone. The perfect combo to make anyone's head spin. Something wasn't right, and the voice in her head said to hurry. Fast. Bermi walked up to her run-down apartment building, inserted her key, and doubled up the steps to the 2nd floor. She unlocked all 4 locks as quickly as she could, like she was solving a complex combination. But just before she could enter, the next-door neighbor swung her door open.
Bermi, how you doing? I thought that was your problem with them kids again making all that jingling noise. Woke me right from up my nap. Like a ding-a-ling-a-ling.
Charlene slurred. She was missing most of her front teeth, and her apartment smelled of Similac and cigarettes. Bermi pinched her nose and played it cool. Charlene was cool, but she was a junkie with bad habits.
Hey girl. Sorry I woke you. Just in a hurry.
Baby, that's okay. I needed to get up anyway. I got a mean craving for some Frito Lays. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Charlene loved to cackle. Bermi, trying to be polite, giggled and closed her door slowly when Charlene's foot stopped it from closing all the way.
Hey, baby, can you help me out with $5 so I can...
Bermi reached into her pocket and gave Charlene all the loose change she had and closed the door behind her.
Oh, dang! Ha-ha, thanks, baby! Give us a big old kiss from Auntie Ling.
On the other side of the door, Bermi took a deep breath and entered her 1-bedroom apartment. All of the lights were off.
Honey, I'm home.
She walked slowly down her hallway and noticed the air started to cool. She walked into her living room to find Ishara sitting calmly by the window, legs crossed and eyes closed. She was meditating. She was wearing her favorite black velvet skirt and blue cotton stitch crop top with a picture of a blue jay. Ishara always had powerful aura. Her presence added texture to the space with a scent of lavender in the air. Bermi walked up to her slowly, moving some of the hair from her face, and caressed her cheek.
Come back, sweetheart.
Bermi said softly, and Ishara opened her eyes. One was blue, and the other was a honey amber. She looked up at her mother.
Hi, Mommy.
Hi, honey. Everything okay out there?
Bermi swept a lock of hair from her face that was turning gray. The stress of the dreams she was having was taking its toll. Bermi knew that Ishara was a gifted girl. Her spirit was strong and very old. She could see moments that happened in the past. She could see the future, and moments that were happening all over the world. She was connected, mind, body, and soul, to the earth and the moon. Bermi really realized that her daughter was special after she witnessed her meditating on her own when she was just 5 years old. Not to mention the out-of-body experience she had when she was born. Bermi's spirit nearly separated from her own body. Ishara would sit in the middle of the room alone, close her eyes, and sit for hours, breathing deeply and intently, like a person who was meditating for many seasons beyond her age. She didn't play with dolls or toys. However, she spent most of her time with her betta fish, who she lovingly named Ari. Rather, that's what she said his name was. A few months ago, walking past a pet shop in Chinatown, Ishara first felt his presence. She said she had to have that fish, and when Bermi saw him, she understood why. The old man held up the tiny bowl for her to get a closer look. He was a beautiful blue moon-tail beta, a rarity of his kind. Ishara took him home that night and kept his bowl by her at all times. She would have long conversations with Ari about everything, but mainly about her dreams and how they haunted her at night. Bermi overheard her speaking of fear like it was a monster, and how it was growing in the world. It scared her deeply, because she herself had dreams of fear, and how the world was to be set aflame before the tides of the sea came to wash us all away. However, it wasn't all bad. Bermi loved to hear all about the good and amazing things Ishara would see when she was meditating. She would give her details of the places she went or the creatures she saw. She found it most interesting when she would speak of the spirits that lurked behind the earth, behind the veil of the moonlight. Ishara read lots of books most children her age would find boring, but she wanted to learn. She read about earth science and the food chain, the cycle of life and the balance of nature, astrology, mythical Greek tales. At the playground, the children would gravitate towards her. She would teach them about the sky and the clouds, the birds and their songs, about the trees and how they spoke to her. Some kids wouldn't believe her stories and alienate her from their hide-and-go-seek games. But she didn't mind being alone, not when she could close her eyes and be a part of the entire universe.
Mommy, the planet is dying. And it needs our help.
Who needs help, honey?
The moon spirit. She cries out for help. The balance of the world has shifted. Fear is growing too strong. The sky needs to cry, and we're the only ones that can.
She stood up suddenly with the fishbowl in a panic and gasped.
Can what? You're not making sense to me right now, sweetie.
We have to leave this place. Right now!
Ishara ran to her room in a mad dash. She returned with a suitcase and Ari and his fishbowl, ready to hit the door.
Okay, young lady, slow it on down. Where are we going? What's going to happen?
We have to travel north.
North where? Like to the Bronx?
Mommy, no, look!
Ishara said, pulling a tiny road map out of her book bag.
Here.
Niagara Falls? What's up there?
The door. I thought we'd have more time. There's a bus leaving at 10 p.m. We can't be late.
A door? A door to where? Okay, sweetie, please. Let me process this. You know I believe you. I always do. I just need a second.
Bermi paced towards the door.
I'll explain on the move, but we have...
An explosion erupted outside, shattering the windows. The entire building shook and both Bermi and Ishara were thrown across the apartment. Bermi opened her eyes. They burned and filled with water. The smoke from outside flooded into the apartment like a thick fog. The harsh smell of gas and brimstone saturated the air and stirred her stomach. Mustering her strength, she rose.
Ishara!
As she cried out, she got up slowly to her feet, using the wall to support herself. She was feeling vertigo from the fall.
Ishara, where are you?
She heard screams and sirens from outside. The apartment was in complete shambles. Pictures and mirrors, once hanging on the walls, now in pieces around the tiny apartment.
Ow.
She could hear Ishara's voice. She was weak. She was thrown across the room against a support beam.
I'm here, honey. Mommy's here.
Bermi got to Ishara and pulled her into her arms. She had a slight cut near her eye and it bled. The blood trickled down her face. Bermi was doing her best to calm her breathing. She grabbed the headscarf and wrapped Ishara's face with it. If she began to panic, they were both going to be screwed. Ari's fishbowl was on the floor next to her, undamaged. A blue light was emanating from the fish, but Bermi was too distracted with Ishara to really notice.
Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. Damn it.
Bermi rocked back and forth. She was holding her in her arms, trying not to cry. She'd do anything to protect Ishara. She didn't know what she would do if anything happened to her.
I'm okay. It's just a scratch, I'm okay, but did not see that coming.
And it didn't look good. The gash could be seen from the tip of her eyebrow to her cheek. It looked like the shard of glass just missed her eye.
Okay, baby, I'm gonna get you cleaned up real quick, okay? Come on.
She helped her up. The electricity was out, but Bermi felt around for the walls.
Shoot, I can't see.
After saying that, Ari's fishbowl glowed an even brighter blue light that illuminated the way to the bathroom. She could see now that it was Ari all along that was emitting the light and cleared the dust away like a barrier.
How is this? Okay, all right. That's fine. Thank you. Good fish.
When they got into the bathroom, she opened the medicine cabinet and took out some gauzes she had in the emergency first aid kit and got to work cleaning Ishara's wound. The cut was less severe than she thought. It wasn't going to leave a major scar on her daughter's face, but it would take a while to heal. It resembled a lightning bolt. The noise from outside reached a crescendo. Dogs barking, babies crying, sirens ringing in the distance. Harlem looked like it turned into an apocalyptic horror film. Bermi finished wrapping Ishara's face with the bandages. Ishara remained silent the entire time. Something deep was going through her mind, and Bermi could tell she was no longer present. Ari, however, splashed around in the tank as if in distress.
Roz, honey?
Bermi said, caressing her daughter's hair. Ishara refocused and looked at her mother with a sad smile.
It's time to go.
Okay.
They found their things through the rubble, and Bermi grabbed some of the super personal items, like a baby picture of Ishara and a notebook. Outside was complete chaos. There was fire trucks and police cars zooming past to get to where all the action was. Bermi looked around and focused on where they were coming from. Just a few blocks away, she could see a plume of smoke coming from what used to be a community center, but now was just a ghost of a building.
Was it a terrorist attack? A bomb?
It's the ruination!
It's a what?
The ruination!
It was really noisy. She could barely hear herself think. The blast did a lot of damage to the nearby buildings. She considered themselves lucky. If they were caught outside, they would surely be dead. They scurried down the block, keeping close to the buildings as people ran around in panic. They came to a stop near an abandoned deli. The windows were blown out, and people were running in and out with food and cigarettes. Bermi pulled them inside and crouched down by the chip shelf for a moment.
Okay. So what's going on, babe?
The ruination. That explosion was caused by a giant ball of fire, like a meteor, not from space, but from the sky. This can only mean that fear is in the sky. The ruination is the collective dark energy from the world that collects in the sky, and like the rain, when enough energy is collected, it comes back to Earth. The moon spirit is weak. It can't sustain the veil that protects the Earth anymore. We're lucky we aren't dead.
Well, that's for sure.
This is the work of fear. It grows stronger each day.
Bermi was listening as she was trying to take in all this new information, as she was stuffing as many chips and snacks into her bag as she could. She grabbed a couple water bottles, too, on their way out. She grabbed Ishara's hand as they skipped over all the broken glass toward the train station.
That was just a small taste. That meteor was only the size of a truck. A small seed in comparison to what's up there.
She pointed to the dusty twilight sky. The clouds seemed to thunder bright red.
Oh, okay, honey. We're just gonna walk a little faster, okay?
Bermi sped up her pace. They reached the station, but there was a clear yellow tape at the steps with a note stating the service was discontinued until further notice. More fire trucks sped by to put out the fires that were everywhere now. The city was a bright orange flame.
Shoot!
Bermi looked around. People were looting stores and having meltdowns in the street. It was like they had died and went to hell. Bermi kept Ishara close, looking around at her Harlem, heartbroken. She saw a group of teenagers running out of a sneaker store with boxes of Nikes and Jordans. Bermi noticed one of the kids as her neighbor's son, John.
John! Get your butt back home to your mother. I know she's worried sick.
Leave me alone, Miss Bermi. Dang! Can you see we in hell? I'm taking these for real.
He yelled back, running off with the rest of his goons.
Oh, well, dang, he ain't wrong. Come on, honey, what's next?
I don't know. I don't know everything, Mommy. Sorry. Let me think.
Bermi smiled and rested her hand on Ishara's bandaged cheek, forgetting for a moment that she was the mother here.
Alrighty then. Putting on the thinking cap.
Bermi pretended to put on a thinking cap. She winked at Ishara, trying to make light out of this very dire situation. Ishara smiled, but it vanished from her face suddenly when something caught her eye from behind Bermi.
Uh-oh. What's wrong?
Bermi hollered as she was stumbling backward. Something snatched her hair from behind and was dragging her to the ground. Ishara screamed as a man wearing tattered clothing and matted woolly hair got down on top of her mother and began choking her with his bare hands.
thought I wouldn't find you, you little brat.
Through teary eyes, Bermi recognized that it was the man that attacked her earlier from the DMV.
Now I bet you'll think twice about abusing your power. You don't want nothing out here in the real world, ever.
He was still slurring his words and spitting.
What the heck, man? Are you for real? You have 14 unpaid tickets and multiple cases of DUI. Get the heck off of me!
Bermi tried, but there was no reasoning with the madman. His grip was tightening.
I don't give a f***.
He choked on those words as his head spun violently to the left, nearly flying off his shoulders. Ishara stood behind him with a brick in hand, ready to strike again. The man rolled off of Bermi, holding the side of his head, wailing in pain.
Ugh, I hate violence.
Ishara said calmly. She bent over and helped Bermi up.
Mommy, are you okay?
Yeah, baby. Oh, wow. You did good. I knew I could count on you.
She was rubbing her neck as she turned her attention back to the man still wriggling on the ground.
Ah, you little brat. You're gonna pay for that one.
He rose from the ground as if he was rising from the dead. His skin was cracked with deep cuts going through his face, like he was hard and melting from the inside like a wax figure. His eyes were bloodshot red, and it looked like smoke was coming from his nose and mouth. He took a step towards them, then another. Bermi grabbed that brick from Ishara.
Hey, pisshole! Why don't you piss off and pay your dang tickets? Leave us alone or you're gonna get the brick again!
Bermi mustered as much courage as she could, but her voice was quivering. She stood and backed up with Ishara. She didn't know what to do. The man was completely deranged. She was afraid they wouldn't be able to outrun him, and there was too much madness in the streets. No one could really help. They were in trouble for sure. The man took a step closer, and Bermi held up that brick, ready to pitch, but a strong, velvet voice came from behind her, stopping the strange man in place.
Take another step. It'll be your last step, mon ami.
Bermi and Ishara turned around to see a tall, built man standing 5 feet behind them, holding a massive shotgun pointed at their attacker.
Who the heck are you? Mind your business, mother.
The stranger fired his gun, blasting the strange man directly in the chest, sending him spiraling backwards. Bermi and Ishara screamed in fright from the loud blast and sheer power of the gun.
Buckshot. They're just sandbags.
The man said, winking at Bermi. The deranged man cried out in agony.
You stupid fool! I'll kill you out!
The tall man shoved the barrel of his gun into the man's mouth, shutting him up.
You, sir, are in no position to make threats, and even less so to use such profanity in front of these young women. So I suggest you shut your god-ugly mouth before I knock the last sorry tooth out your face,
he said. The deranged man gnawed at the end of the gun. Disgusted, the tall man whipped that gun around and swung it like a golf club across the crazy guy's head, knocking him unconscious, and sending his last tooth skipping across the street like a flat rock on a still lake surface.
A hole in one.
The tall man tucked his gun behind his back and then turned his attention towards Bermi and Ishara.
I'm terribly sorry y'all had to witness such violence on my behalf. I do sincerely apologize.
The tall man took a knee in front of them like a knight. A bit much for Bermi, she thought, but she was completely in awe of what just happened. She should be terrified of the man with the giant shotgun, but something about him felt oddly familiar. She somehow knew she wouldn't have to worry about him at all. He looked up to her with a big smile. What a beautiful man, she thought, smiling back. Chocolate skin, a strong nose and chin, full lips, and an odd pair of bushy eyebrows. His hair was cut low, and a detailed lightning bolt tattoo going across his neck. He wore a long burgundy leather trench coat that looked like it weighed 100 pounds, and black jeans and boots to match.
2 things. 1, I know you're hot in that leather trench coat. It's literally 120 degrees out here. And number 2, you're not from Harlem, are you?
No, ma'am. I hail from the slums of the bayou in New Orleans. Makes me used to heat like this. My name's Bishop.
Bishop Moonshine.
Ishara finished his name. She stepped forward and extended a hand.
I'm Ishara. This is my mother, Bermi. It's nice to meet you.
Well, Cher, aren't you a little delighted? How did you know
No time to explain. Can you take us north to Niagara Falls, please? It's important we get there before the full moon.
Oh, My daughter, she's very tenacious and rather blunt sometimes. Honey, we don't know this man to ask so much of him. He already saved our lives pretty much, which I mean, thank you for that, by the way. You really came through right on.
Time. But we're running out of time, so we have to leave like 10 minutes ago. Please, Bishop.
Ishara pleaded, still holding the fishbowl in hand, giving her best innocent little girl a smile. He looked between the two of them and grinned.
It would be my pleasure, little lady. Well, time's a wasting. Let's get going. I'm parked just around the corner, a few blocks over there.
Wait, pause, everybody. Hello, hi. My name is Patrice. Bishop, was it? Okay, I'd just like some more info before we get into a car with a man like yourself. Are you registered at your local DMV? Are you the owner of your vehicle? Furthermore,
Mommy, please. He's here to help us. Aren't you, Bishop?
Yes, Cher, I do believe that I am. Trust me, you're in safe hands. Nothing and nobody's gonna harm you. Especially not me. I promise.
He grabbed her hand, and then suddenly, electricity surged through her body, right through to her spirit. And it was as if she heard the sound of rain, and the smell of fresh water, and a sense of relief wash over her like a mist on her dry skin. She looked into his eyes and noticed they were gray, with a hint of blue around the rim. Time stood still for what felt like minutes. Ishara looked at her mother, rolling her eyes with a smile.
Okay, guys, can we leave now?
Ishara said, interrupting the moment. She grabbed Bermi's free hand to pull her from her trance.
oh Lord, I must be losing my friggin' mind. Yeah, honey, lead the way.
Bermi said, begrudgingly, but he did have the sweetest smile she'd ever seen on a man. They walked with haste for about 4 blocks and turned down a block on 119th. Bermi was very familiar with this block. Bishop hit a button that opened the garage door to reveal his beautiful black Chevy truck. Attached to the garage was a big, gorgeous brownstone she had always walked by on her way to the park. Funny, she'd always wondered who lived there.
Say hello to Buddha!
Oh, impressive.
I know, right? Okay, hop on in.
Bishop was oblivious to her sarcasm. He hopped on the driver's side while Ishara slid in the middle of them in the front next to Bermi. They buckled up and Bishop started the engine. Bermi had so many questions, but she had to hold her tongue for the right moment. She didn't want to bombard him. The only reason she was in this car was because of Ishara. She knew if Ishara liked him, then he was okay. But that didn't stop her from side-eyeing him. And the fact that he was nice to look at didn't hurt either.
Okay. When you got the map, right? 'Cause admittedly, I ain't never been past Connecticut.
You don't have to lie, Bishop. You've been all over the world twice. So please, Niagara Falls, please.
Oh. Oh, okay. Not getting anything past you, let's say. Okay. Niagara Falls, here we come.
He was genuinely amused by her calling him out. He was only trying to protect himself. Bermi side-eyed him, but also chuckled under her breath. Ishara always spilled the tea. Bermi noticed he had several tiny figurines on his dashboard. They were mini elephants of different shapes and sizes, but shared the same insignia, the lightning bolt across their tiny bodies. He also adorned his dash with lots of tiny dried flowers, all different kinds, like a shrine.
Elephants symbolize good luck, wisdom, and fertility.
Correct, Lil Cher. That's an old family tradition. The elephant is connected to my spirit.
What about the lightning bolt?
Lightning represents life and power.
He answered, catching a glance at her as he pulled down the block. All the streetlights were out, so he drove through the chaos cautiously.
It should take us only a few hours. It's almost time.
Well, Lil Cher, I can't say I'm not impressed. Has she always been this self-assured?
Always. When she was born, she didn't even cry. Not even a little. The doctors were sure something was wrong with her, but when I looked in her eyes, she told me everything I needed to know. And she's been doing it ever since.
I ain't heard nothing like that in my life.
Yeah, she's my gift from the stars.
They made it to the George Washington Bridge and navigated their way onto Route 95 North. Bermi sat looking out the window in silence.
What a day it had been.
She was just thinking to herself. Harlem was on fire, her apartment was destroyed, and all her belongings were left behind. Her heart raced faster and faster as she thought about what the future might hold for them. What would they come back to? How was she going to take care of them? Her mind was jumping from one bad scenario to the next when Ishara touched her arm, calming her nerves. She knew her mother was about to flip.
It'll be okay, Mommy. Just rest for now.
Oh, no, I'm good. I'm wide awake, sweetie.
Ishara simply rested her hand on Bermi's lap and allowed her energy to influence her. Next thing she knew, she felt instantly exhausted. Bermi rested her head on the window and closed her eyes slowly.
Okay, I'm just gonna close my eyes for a moment.
She dozed off into a deep, deep sleep. End of chapter 2.